What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Chris Evans here with 0 Meter Chasers live on this Friday morning. Beautiful Friday morning here in Kentucky. And I did want to do one thing here. There we go. So we're going to start on the Kentucky Mesonet website this morning, looking around the state of Kentucky at our air temperatures this morning. We have beautiful temperatures, very comfortable temperatures early this morning in the mid 70s for many in central, western, and eastern Kentucky. All of the state of Kentucky is experiencing that good weather as we have continued to stay under that dome of a high pressure the last couple of days. But as we've kind of talked about, the weather's going to kind of change a little bit as we get into the weekend, and especially as we get into the mid and later parts of the month. So I did kind of want to cover the later parts of our forecast today as well. This will be my last live video for the weekend, as I am going down to Richmond this weekend for the Special Olympics track and field tournament. So I'm not going to be able to go live any this weekend, but if you have any questions about the forecast, either this weekend or anything that I cover next week, make sure to drop a comment and I will be sure to pull it up and I'll cover it in this video. So again, looking here at the KY Mesonet website, beautiful temperatures. We're 77 degrees here in Hardin County. You guys can see some of those cirrus clouds, just a high layer of cirrus clouds kind of along the deck of in Hardin County. And we'll continue to see nice temperatures and nice weather as we get into our Friday afternoon. Here again is the new weather front website showing those really nice temperatures right now. And I did want to look at satellite real quick, and I'm going to we're going to zoom out on satellite a little bit. And as you can tell, here's your area of high pressure where you currently have very minimal clouds just off of the coast of South Carolina. And your return flow is leading to those numerous rounds of thunderstorms here in South Dakota. We had a tornado warning in Missouri last night. We had some storms in Kansas as well. And while this has kind of been stuck in the same area for the last couple of days, we're finally going to shift this a little bit farther to the east in the coming days. And that's kind of shown well here on the SBC outlook. So if you look today, we do have a slight risk here in portions of South Dakota, Iowa, and Illinois. And then as you get into Saturday, you'll see everything is kind of shifted to the east. That slight risk is now included into portions of Ohio, into Pennsylvania, and New York. And then you have that marginal risk kind of draped along Indiana and Illinois on Saturday. And then on Sunday, you'll see we have a slight risk, but the introduction of a general thunderstorm risk for the Ohio Valley. So we are going to introduce that storm chance as we get into this weekend. So what I wanted to do now real quick is look at some model data with you guys and kind of see what to expect as we get into our weekend here. And if you give me 1 second to get everything going here. Again, if you guys have any questions or anything that you guys want to put, make sure to put it in the chat, and I will be sure to cover it here as we get going. But we're going to zoom in here. This is the HRRR future radar, really Friday through early on Sunday. And I can really fast forward early on Friday here because as we go, you're going to see as we go through, this is through 6 p.m. on Friday, and there's not much. We're not going to have much rain today. And even tomorrow, as we get into our Saturday, it's going to be very dry. Okay, well, we could have some isolated storms. There's two areas I'm watching. There'll be a complex of storms up here near Indianapolis that's going to dive southeast and possibly could clip like northeast Kentucky. And then we've got to see if there's any convection here along I-64 that maybe tries to pop as we get some instability. But we're going to be pretty capped on Saturday. So our Friday looks very nice. Saturday looks very nice as well. Possibly a lower rain chance as we get into northeast Kentucky, possibly along I-64. But I don't think the rain chance is very high on Saturday at all. And then as we go into Sunday, this is as far as the HRRR can get, but you can kind of see the difference. Right? We haven't had rain in portions of Mississippi and Alabama in a long time. And this return, all of this is kind of drifting northward. So as we get that moisture to increase over the next couple of days, and I will show that real quick, you guys are going to see you're going to see that our dew point is really going to increase as we get into the next couple of days. So we're going to go back here to where we're at right now. It's loading a little bit slow today. There we go. So as you can tell right now, very comfortable dew points outside. We're only in the mid to lower 60s across the whole Ohio Valley. As we fast forward here into our Friday, again, low 50s, very comfortable dew points today. But as we get into our weekend, those dew points really start to increase. We start to see those 60-degree dew points in Western Kentucky on Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. And then all of that kind of translates. And as we push it up, you can see as we get to Sunday at 8 a.m., which is the farthest that the HRRR can go, but we will look at the GFS. You can see that moisture is really starting to advance northward as our high pressure is finally starting to exit the region. So that is what is leading to that increased storm chance as we get into our Sunday. And I am going to pull up the GFS now, and we'll look at the GFS real quick. Again, showing that moisture. You'll see as we get into Sunday, here is Sunday at 6 p.m. And the best moisture here is going to be in far western Kentucky, but we'll have 60-degree dew points in all of Kentucky on Sunday. So again, that is what is leading to that increased storm chance as we get into our Sunday. I do not think we're going to have widespread severe weather with this setup. It's more of like a summertime pulse type of storm setup where you can have some downburst winds when storms collapse. But it's not looking like widespread severe weather because we do not have very high wind shear. I've shown that. I'm actually going to show that at the end of this video here in a minute. But our wind shear, the jet stream is just not configured right for severe weather in the Ohio Valley right now. There are signs that could break down as we get into the mid to late June. But we will have to see if that happens or not, because once you get past 2 weeks, model data can really kind of go everywhere. But we will look at kind of our longer term a little bit later in this video. Kaya coming in here. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Kaya. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. But looking back at weather front here, we're going to go back to the precipitation and look at the GFS. I'm going to back it up here in 1 second. Let me get it zoomed in a little bit. And then you can see here, let me back it up a little bit. And again, we talked about this yesterday. The GFS, the Euro, our non-high-res data is going to show this as like a blob of rain. But in a setup like this is more of a pop-up thunderstorm type of setup. We're not going to have widespread rain as we get into our Sunday morning, but we could have some showers and some thunderstorms along and west of I-65 early on Sunday morning. And if we advance this forward into Sunday afternoon, you will see that kind of advances along and east of I-65 as we get into the afternoon. Again, this is not looking like a severe weather outbreak or anything like that. Just looks like some classic pop-up thunderstorms as we get into our Sunday. And then by Sunday night, we will kind of clear out. So I kind of wanted to do a weekend forecast and kind of cover what to expect to Friday through Sunday. And then I was going to kind of do a long-term on what I'm kind of thinking long-term for maybe the next couple of weeks here in the Ohio Valley. So I'm going to give everybody a second here. If you have any questions about the forecast for this weekend, make sure you put it in the chat right now. Just to kind of cover everything, Friday and Saturday, really nice weather. Humidity is starting to increase, really starts to increase as we get into our Sunday. And that's what's going to increase our storm chances, pop-up thunderstorm chances as we get into our Sunday. So again, if you guys have any questions, make sure to put it in the chat. On point with the analysis so far. Nice example earlier how you mentioned return flow also. Yes, so for anybody that doesn't know what return flow is, we're going to go back real quick and show this. We have an area of high pressure that's kind of sitting over here. I think I can draw. I can. Uh-oh. All right. We got an area of high pressure that's sitting somewhere about over here. And when you have this area of high pressure, it's a dome. It makes air sink. So it's not going to allow for air to rise, which is what you need when you have severe weather. That area of high pressure forces that air to sink, and it also forces the air around it to return flow like this. So everything has to go around the high pressure, excuse my arrow, but it has to go around like this. So what that is causing this to do is it's taking this Gulf moisture and it's taking it and it's throwing it up all the way up here into the Midwest. And that is what has been causing our repeated rounds of storms in South Dakota, into Kansas. And until we get that high pressure to kind of break down and move out, which is going to happen late this weekend into next week, it's going to kind of be the same story. But it's not locked into this setup for forever. Really, we're going to be out of it as we get into late this weekend into next week. But this is what's kind of led to our nice weather for most of this week. This week is just that high pressure forcing that air to sink, not allowing any clouds or any air to rise, which causes thunderstorms. And that's what's causing the repeated rounds of thunderstorms into the central United States. So if anybody had any questions about what return flow was or anything like that, that's what I got for you. So if we have no other questions so far about this weekend, we're kind of going to go to long term. So I'm going to go back here to Sunday. And again, as we get into our Sunday night, we kind of dry out a little bit. Now, there is an interesting feature that I've seen on some data. As we get into next week, that high pressure is going to kind of move out. And although you're going to look, I'm going to show the jet stream here in a second. We're not in the most favorable pattern for severe weather with the jet stream. It's a favorable pattern for a couple of rounds of storms as we get into next week. So on some of the model data, it's kind of been showing an MCS complex early on Monday. And this has kind of been tracking along 64. So I'm kind of interested to see if that kind of forms here. But if not, if we don't have that MCS complex in the morning on Monday, then we'll just have some widespread showers and thunderstorms on Monday. And this is kind of like a rinse and repeat as we get into next week. Because then if you look at our Tuesday, we'll kind of have some more showers and thunderstorms in eastern and southeastern Kentucky. But especially as we get into our Wednesday, Wednesday could feature possibly another MCS, some type of complex of storms in central or eastern Kentucky. And then as we get into our Thursday, which is probably the farthest I'm going to take it with the reflectivity, you'll see we have kind of a cold front that has set up here, and this could lead to some widespread severe weather in Missouri, Iowa, South Dakota. But this cold front is going to kind of advance eastward as we get towards June 12th. And I think that's the period we have to watch for any uptick in severe weather, is once we get this the cold front to kind of push off to the southeast. Until then, it'll kind of be a summertime-like pattern next week. We'll have a couple of days with just those pop-up thunderstorms in the afternoon. We'll have to watch and see if we have any MCS complexes. I will show some data showing the possibility of some isolated severe weather next week. Doesn't look widespread, but we could have a couple of days with some warnings next week. One more thing I did want to show was the jet stream right now. So if we look at this, and I think I showed this yesterday, but I wanted to show it one more time and kind of go over what this is with you guys. So what this is looking at is looking at the 500 millibar jet stream, and this is showing our jet stream pattern, or where the wind conditions are most favorable for severe weather in the United States. And as I zoom out, you're basically going to take this as a stream from left to right. So I'm going to take this here, and anywhere it connects in blue, we're going to kind of just connect it. And this right here, anywhere in red, is kind of where that jet stream is currently lined up. That's kind of your driving pattern for the weather systems in the United States. And that is why we have had more of the severe weather threat in the central and north central United States and western United States over the past couple of weeks. We've had that high pressure that we were talking about right here, that were blocking any storm chances and putting that return flow and forcing that severe weather off to the west and to the north. But as we get into our weekend, the one thing you'll see here is on Saturday, you'll see we're starting to get a little bit more, we get a little bit more organized wind shear. Not a lot of wind shear, not anything overly impressive, but I do think that that is what is leading to maybe some isolated severe weather as we get into our Saturday or Sunday. And then as you look on Sunday, that severe weather would probably be more centralized into Western Kentucky, where you have a better wind field. And that's probably where your better storm chance is on Sunday, too, is in Western Kentucky. But as we get into Monday, you'll see again, we kind of get these repeated patterns of decent wind shear, enough to cause some isolated severe weather, but not enough wind shear to cause widespread severe weather. So I do think that it's a pattern change, but it's not a complete pattern flip. We're not just going to turn completely to severe weather. But I do think that we have a couple of days next week. The next day that I'm watching, really, I think it was Monday and Wednesdays were the 2 days that I was watching the most for severe weather. I think Wednesday was more, if you can see, it's kind of that northwest flow. And as we get into Wednesday, that's showing signs still of kind of an MCS complex. Which is just a line of storms that could have some damaging winds as we get into our Wednesday. So that's something that I'm watching as we get into our Monday and Wednesday. The last thing that I wanted to show until I get to the severe weather, kind of show you guys what to expect in the severe weather aspect of things, was now we're going to look at the same thing here. But now this is on the GFS ensembles. So yes, we have some weaker wind shear here in Kentucky on Wednesday, but the overall wind pattern, you can see it clearly here on the GFS ensembles, and you have that ridge that is still working in here that is not allowing for any widespread, organized severe weather. And this is what we kind of refer to as a death ridge. It's been more of an omega block more than anything. And that looks to kind of continue as we get into the later next week. But what I'm kind of watching here is as we get into the later part of June, really as we get into the middle to the ender part of June, is I'm watching to see how this jet streak reacts, okay? So if we go back here, I'm going to go back to where we are right now. You can see how that ridge kind of forces everything off to the north, right? You got the ridge here. It shunts everything north. But as we get to mid-June, there is some hints on model data that this ridge is kind of going to buckle back down to the south. And this could lead to an area of enhanced severe weather, especially across portions of the Midwest. And I do think the Ohio Valley could get involved in that as well. So watching to see how that jet stream pattern kind of sets up as we get into the mid and late months. This has not been a normal spring. We've had a lot of northwest flow events, and we had a couple of stratospheric warming events in late spring that have kept us pretty cool. I mean, we've only had a couple of 90-degree days at all. So it'll be very interesting to see how the pattern kind of shifts or resets as we get into mid or late June. I don't think that anything is set into stone yet, but I do think that it's interesting to see the model data kind of break down that ridge and possibly introduce some more storm chances as we get into mid and late month. So that's kind of all the model data I wanted to show you guys. I do have one more thing I wanted to show you guys here. And this is one of my favorite websites, something that I use daily. It's called weatherforecasting.com, and it kind of has all the outlooks. There's a lot on this website. But I did want to show you guys the website and kind of all the tools that I use when forecasting severe weather. And this shows the SPC outlook for day one, as long as the SIPS, which is just an analog-based outlook, and then the CSU, which is an AI outlook, and NSSL is also an AI. So it's just a bunch of different outlooks. But basically, what I wanted to show on here was the CSU. Let me get to Sunday here. Yeah, so if we look at Sunday, this is the CSU showing the risk for Sunday, and you guys can see we don't have a high severe risk on Sunday, but the CSU is highlighting portions of Western Kentucky where the wind field is a little bit more favorable for that severe weather on Sunday. But then as we get into Monday, you can see we already have a low-end severe weather risk in Western Kentucky, and it's also showing up on the SIPS and the NSSL as well. And then we get into Tuesday, another low-end severe risk showing up on all three sets of data. And then as you get into Wednesday, the NSSL has picked up on it. The CSU and the SIPS is up a little bit as well. But So again, this does not look like widespread severe weather, but as we get into the next couple of days, next week, I think we could have a couple of days where we have some isolated severe warnings. As we get into next week. One more thing that I did want to show is this is from the GFS ensembles. And how I want you to look at this map is you're going to read this from left to right. And here are your date stamps at the bottom. So this is June 4th, and it'll go all the way to June 18th. And this red line is the control line. So you can see that this is all the different ensemble data predicting severe weather. So anytime that you see this red line start to go up, or really when you see the ensemble data or the ensemble members start to increase over this dashed line. And again, I know this can be a lot, but I just kind of want to give you guys an insight to kind of what I look at when I'm forecasting severe weather at least a couple of weeks in advance. And as we look at the GFS ensembles, you'll see there's kind of an uptick as we get towards June 11th through the 18th. And that control line slowly starts to tick up. And especially as you get that control line above that 0, that's when we really start to get some significant severe weather somewhere in the United States. And it's interesting because that uptick in severe weather is happening around the same time that the ensemble data is hinting at that jet stream kind of buckling back and the omega block kind of easing off a little bit. So we'll have to watch that as we get into later June, because I do think we'll have some type of pattern shift somewhere in the United States. We'll just have to kind of look at data in the next couple of weeks and see how where we're going to go from there. So again, I really appreciate everybody coming in here. I'm going to give everybody a second to put any questions in the chat, because I know I just went over a lot of information for you guys, but I'll give you all about a minute to put anything in the chat. I'm going to go back on the Weatherfront website here. And again, Weatherfront is not paying me anything to say this, but I really enjoy using this Weatherfront app or Weatherfront desktop. It is free as well, and it has all the features that you need. I don't use the paid version on my live streams right now. I will eventually get the paid version on the live streams, but you can use everything that you need without even needing the paid version. So that's really nice. Again, props to Weatherfront for what they put together on desktop, because it's really good. So again, that is our forecast here for not only this weekend, but really for the next couple of weeks. We're going to return that storm chance as we get into later next week. Some isolated severe weather looks possible, but not organized. Widespread severe weather does not look like a concern. I would say the days most likely to look at for severe weather would be Monday and Wednesday of next week. But I think all days next week, Monday through Thursday, are going to feature some type of storm risk somewhere in Kentucky. And then as we get beyond next week, we'll just have to see how our jet pattern kind of sets up, and if we can get any low pressure systems to track into Kentucky. So that is kind of what I'm looking at. Again, this will be my last live video here for the weekend. I am going to Richmond, Kentucky this weekend for the Special Olympics track tournament. Very excited to go there and watch the athletes compete. So if we have no questions, I really appreciate everybody coming in here, and I appreciate all the support. Again, we're going to continue these live video updates really daily. Next week, I'll be back on Monday, and we'll start them again next week, covering the probably daily storm chance that we'll have each day. So again, I appreciate everybody coming in here, and you guys have a blessed weekend.